Good night. Welcome back to another episode of HealthWise. I am your host, Dr. Lescott, on behalf of the St. Kitts Nevis Medical and Dental Association. We have a very interesting show for you this evening. I have with me this week some panelists, and we are here to discuss the Global Week for Action Against NCDs, which is non-communicable diseases, which commences on the 14th of September. So on my immediate left, I have Dr. Al Pierre, who is a medical doctor and also a member of the Medical and Dental Association. Next to Dr. Pierre, I have Ms. Zara Jacobs, representing the Mental Health Association. And on Zara's left, I have Mr. Marcus Natta, who is here to represent, the Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Foundation. He asked me to stress you guys, he's a doctor, but not a medical one. So on my immediate right, I have Miss Michelle Baker, who is representing the Lake Health and Wellbeing. And on her right, we have Dr. Glenville Liebert, representing both the Nevis CBI Advocates and the Nevis Renal Society.
Thank you for your
Okay, so to open our discussion, I guess I can ask each person on the panel to just briefly introduce themselves again, and we'll begin by you guys letting the public know what exactly you do here for us. That's so important, and important for the fight against NCDs, or chronic non-communicable diseases. So we'll start with Dr. Pierre. So could you tell us why are we so concerned about NCDs?
Hi, good evening. Monica, I want to say hats off to you as well for doing a fantastic job and ensuring that this show continues to remain an active part of the information that's fed to our society from the medical end. As some of you may know, I used to host this show at some point, and I'm grateful for Dr. Lescott for doing such a great job in keeping you informed. I represent the Medical and Dental Association as the vice president. Of course, NCDs are perhaps the biggest challenge for us here in St. Kitts and certainly throughout the rest of the world and also the Caribbean. Chronic non-communicable diseases, and you can go down the entire list, the entire gamut, from hypertension, diabetes, mental health conditions, renal conditions. They are all the number one cause of death and disability here in St. Kitts. It means that either one of us are either living with all those things, or we know someone within our family, someone very close who we've lost, or someone who right now is suffering with one of those diseases. So it is an important fight to take on, simply because I think for many of us it is an existential crisis. There are many individuals who will say to you that the rate at which people are getting sick and becoming disabled makes it almost difficult for a government to even consider how they would develop a nation at the point at which, to the point at which our individuals remain healthy. So, to the extent of the work in sorry, you see this? I don't get to be the host, and this is what happens. I get outside. The Medical and Dental Association, I will leave that to speak to a bit later on, but I would happily pass the mic on to somebody else. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pierre. So we'll have Ms. Jacobs.
Sure. Thank you for having us, Dr. Lescott. At the St. Kitts Mental Health Association, we talk a lot about mental health, but often it is tied to other things that are happening in people's life, not just their mood. Often people are dealing with non-communicable diseases such as high blood pressure. So often when people come and tell me that they're stressed out, when you ask a few more questions, they also have high blood pressure. Often they've stopped taking their medication. Sometimes they're having difficulty managing their stress, and all these things tie in together. And at the Mental Health Association, we like to think about things as being related. Our health is not just our physical health, it impacts our mental health and our ability to manage our physical health. We work in relation. We try to get people to think about sleeping and eating and movement. All these things tie into mental health. Not just feel happy and be happy. And non-communicable diseases really take a toll on people's ability to make choices that are good for them. So we are just happy to be a part of the conversation, and thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. So we're going to have Dr. Nato.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Lescott, and I want to say on behalf of Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Foundation, we're grateful for the opportunity to be here and to, support the health and well-being as the fight against the non-communicable diseases. So, Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Foundation, I'm happy to be representing this evening as PRO Vice President, and we were formed back in July 2009, and the fight really has been ongoing since then, day after day. Of course, our foundation is primarily focused on breast cancer, but I will say, and I always say, we don't turn away anyone who is seeking assistance for other types of cancer. So I guess as the evening progresses, we'll delve more into what we do, but again, thanks for the opportunity for being here.
Thank you as well. Okay, so we'll pass the mic along to Ms. Baker.
Thank you. So I am the Advocacy Officer of Lake Health and Wellbeing. I specifically lead the Your Sweet Enough project, or Your Sweet Enough campaign, which aims to educate the public on the risks associated with consuming sugar-sweetened beverages. Also, we aim to advocate to policymakers for health policies that would address this issue. And this relates to NCDs because the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages are a major risk factor for developing NCDs such as diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. Additionally, we are planning a week of activities for the Global Week of Action, which begins on the 14th, including this panel, also having a video address on the 14th, also health checks on September 15th and the 23rd. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So we'll also pass the mic along to Dr. Leiber.
Thank you very much.
He will tell us what he does.
Dr. Lescott, and it's a pleasure to be here in this panel. And as you heard, I'm a medical doctor. I'm a specialist in anesthesiology, but I do primary care. And so that has led me to community advocacy, because you see the entire spectrum of health conditions, and you want to see people get well, having done fancy surgery and intensive care. You want to make sure they continue with their recovery. And so that has led me into advocacy. Being a founder member of the Nevis Renal Society back in 1998. Around that time there was a spate of patients and Nevis who had renal failure and traveling all over the world to get dialysis. And then in 2019, we started a community-based rehabilitation advocate after we did some research to show that people in Nevis were not being properly rehabilitated, and we need a community response. And so that led me to research solutions and discovered what I call community-based rehabilitation, and been advocating for that community approach to rehab services on Nevis. And it all ties in with chronic health conditions, because diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, they are very disabling. Of course, cancer and mental health are all interrelated and part of disabling condition where people may be difficult to regain functionality. So I'm here tonight and look forward to the conversation as we advocate for better services around chronic non-communicable diseases.
Wow, awesome. Thank you very much, everyone. I can see we're going to have quite an interesting show. We just have a couple of seconds of minutes of short break. We'll be back shortly. Thank you.
We will never give up the fight. Feel the temperature rise, souls intensify. It's time that we realize that we must work together to thrive. The world as we know it, the sky and below it. Could I never have more wonder? Yeah, with life and all you see and the climate's changing, but hope is remaining. And we can't ignore the future. It depends on you and me. The Caribbean Sea, it's a part of me. We're all in this together, even if we are apart. El mundo no pasó, tú le mundo son. We're all in this together, no son para beyond. One chance, all that we got. One voice, together we start. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are one climate, one Caribbean. One climate, one Caribbean. Nous en dépendons tous, notre planète. Je n'ai pas imaginé un jour un monde sans vie. We're never losing, as long as we're moving
Towards a better future, it belongs to you and me.
Let's be persistent,
We'll be resilient.
we're all in this together, even if we are apart. Y todos sabemos que todo lo que hacemos, we're all in this together, afecta nuestro mundo. One chance, all that we got. One voice, together we start. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are one climate, one Caribbean. One climate, one Caribbean. The world as we know it, the sky and below it. Could I never have more wonder? Yeah, with life and all you see now everything's changing,
But hope is remaining.
and we can't ignore the future. It depends on you and me. Yeah. One chance, all that we got. One voice, together we start. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are one chance, all that we got. One voice, together we start. Take care, the world where we live. Permite a todos vivir. Tomamos la oportunidad para guardar la humanidad. And I must leave no one behind because we are one climate, one Caribbean. We're never giving up the fight. One climate, one Caribbean.
To your jam-packed show with lots of information and interesting pieces of knowledge that I'm sure everyone would definitely like to hold on to. So I'm going to open up our panel and we're going to just have a discussion. So I'm going to ask maybe Dr. Liebert, explain to us and those out there in radio, TV, and internet land exactly what do we classify as NCDs, non-communicable diseases. What exactly makes them fall under that category, and why are we so concerned about them?
Well, these are by and large lifestyle diseases, and they are not transmitted from person to person like say infectious pneumonia or infectious condition. They are acquired by how we work, live and play with our community. Of course, some conditions, maybe HIV is now coming under a chronic health condition because it becomes part of the fabric of the body's system, that it doesn't go away easily because of how the infection resides in the body.
That's interesting because by very definition, non-communicable is supposed to suggest that it's not necessarily transmissible. So if you want to...
yeah, but the chronicity of the HIV makes it classified now with the diabetes and hypertension because you have to be on lifelong medication. So once you go beyond a certain time frame for treatment, say 30 days, then it becomes like a chronic.
So if you have an illness that is affecting you beyond 30 days, it's now classified as chronic?
Well, potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah. Because normally the body should recover from an acute illness within that time frame. That begins to show signs of persistent recovery. So going beyond 30 days, is normally a benchmark for developing chronicity in some conditions.
So are you in Nevis? You practice in Nevis?
Yes, I do.
So can you tell me why are we so concerned about it in Nevis? I guess I'll ask someone who is practicing or working with patients in St. Kitts what are our concerns and why are we fighting in St. Kitts, but as someone that is living and working in Nevis, what's the major concern of the healthcare professionals as it concerns the NCDs?
Well, this condition, because treatment has to be for the long term, it consumes lots of resources. And the fact that you have to be always buying medication, doing tests, then that has to be budgeted for. I mean, if it's for a 30-day treatment, yes, you could easily manage that. But once you go beyond that, have to go for months and years on the same treatment, then it becomes a problem. So the economics of care is important. And of course, because their lifestyle conditions, they're potentially preventable. Okay. And so we need to pay attention to that aspect of the treatment plan, that you have to look at the root causes of these conditions. And since that they won't go away, then you have to find mitigating measures to prevent them from happening in the first place. And of course, they lead to chronic ill health, morbidity, and of course, mortality is always in the mix of the question. So if you could, this condition will shorten your lifespan if you do not properly manage. And so, premature death is part of the equation in this condition which you want to prevent. And so, in a small population, you don't want to be going to funerals every week, every day. So you need to enjoy good quality of life, and so prevent all these traumatic emotional situations where a loved one is lost or incapacitated because of poor health from these chronic, non-communicable or chronic health conditions.
Okay, interesting. So would any of my Kittitian panelists or people who work and reside in St. Kitts, because we might have some non-Kittitians among us, anyone that's working and residing in St. Kitts, why is it such a huge burden on our public health system down here? Anyone wants to tackle that one?
I would love to add something.
Sure.
So I've been doing some research on non-communicable diseases for presentations and such, and some of the information that I found, and my youth health advocates, which are two young women in St. Kitts and Nevis that assist us with the Sweeten project, what we found has been astounding. I believe in 2015, the World Bank estimated that 48% of our public health expenditure goes to NCDs. 60 to 80% of all deaths in St. Kitts are due to NCDs. 8 in every 100 Kittitians and Nevisians currently have an NCD. In 2022, over 4,000 health center visits were due to NCDs. And so this is a major burden on our healthcare system. Additionally, as others have said, it affects our quality of life. It leads to disability. It is affecting younger and younger people. And so this is something that needs to be addressed urgently.
Okay, I'm really
I just wanted to chime in because those statistics were 2015, but I want to revise them a little bit because it's closer to 80% in terms of the cause of death here in the Federation that is attributed to some degree to an NCD. The challenge and the reason why it's perhaps not even a helpful exercise to sort of separate the two islands, because as far as I know, I could be wrong. Please correct me. Perhaps one budget. It's the burden of disease. So there's some terminology that I'll use. One is the burden of disease in the sense that who bears the cost when somebody gets sick, and I think by far and large society bears the cost. When governments need to put resources out to care for individuals, it means that there's a school that isn't being fixed, there's a road that isn't being paved. When a family loses an income because somebody has died from an NCD at a very early age. Remember, in the Caribbean, certainly I think it's 40% of our deaths are premature, meaning that people die before they should have ideally died. But that's not even a big concern, as is the disability adjusted life years, the number of productive years that is lost to NCDs. It means that when a bus driver loses a limb because of diabetes, he can no longer operate as a bus driver. Then what does he do? Individuals who have chronic illnesses that prevent them from actually working to the capacity they could or should be working at their age. These are individuals, for example, who become dependent on our social security systems, they become dependent on our hospital systems, and if you think of it, when you look at the gamut of NCDs and what is required to adequately treat these individuals, take for example someone who has a heart attack. The gold standard for treating a heart attack, or the door-to needle time as it's called, is 90 minutes. Under 90 minutes, it means that somebody needs to get in front of a cardiologist or a center where something is given to break up that clot that has stopped the blood from flowing to the heart. That's 90 minutes, but you need a cardiac center for that. But then you also need a stroke center, and you also need a cancer center. There's no way that St. Kitts and Nevis can afford to provide those things. So it would do us well perhaps to do the work that we're doing, the advocacy work that we're doing, to prevent those illnesses, or at least their complications to a great degree. And the fact that Dr. Leibert spoke to the fact that they are lifestyle diseases, it means that it requires this all-of-society approach that you see here to prevent them. If we cannot treat them in the way they need to be treated, it means that if they're being treated piecemeal, then it means so too is the recovery going to be piecemeal. And I think that's why it's so important, because of those important things. The burden of disease, how much are we needing to actually support, how much are we losing in terms of revenue and productivity. Disability adjusted life years, how much years of productivity is lost. So people end up having more years in their life than life in their years, as I like to put it. So these are the things to me that I think when you look at those figures, these are the ones that really just stops you and gives you some pause and think to yourself that we really need to tackle this, and we need to do so aggressively.
I like that. What you just measured basically was DALYs.
Yeah.
That's the how you measure the healthy life loss, and I think that it's a small phrase, but the amount of healthy life loss, if you think about it, then if you only is expected, your life expectancy should be about 70 years. So then if you adjust your healthy life that is lost comparison to your life expectancy, then we're saying that your quality of life significantly diminishes. So even if you live up until you're 70, then what is your quality of life going to be like? Would you be mobile? Would you have support? Would you be able to maintain your own hygiene? And sometimes it's very difficult to fathom because you're not in that situation, but once you're in that situation where you really don't have a support or anyone to help you financially or physically, it's a really, really, really tough life to live. Mm-hmm. That's right.
I was just having a conversation with Abby today about what can happen when you find yourself in that position. Many people in St. Kitts currently, I know they feel possibly unheard. When we speak to some of our partners and organizations, they have expressed that once you get to that point where you're unable to care for yourself, there's not that much support available. So it's another reason why it needs to be addressed on both ends, prevention of the NCDs and then also support for those who find themselves in that position.
I think Ms. Jacobs could probably chime in on the mental health strain that could probably pose on a family if you have a person that was once the breadwinner is now immobile, there is a way to take care of, move, shift, bathe, and just all of these things, is small little things that we don't really consider if we don't have a disabled loved one. You yourself as a caretaker can become mentally strained, your body becomes tired. What are you seeing in our communities now, Ms. Jacobs?
Well, I'll answer, but I'll go back to something that we were talking about. You know, when we say that non-communicable diseases are lifestyle diseases, I worry sometimes that we blame people for getting them, right? So we blame people because they are eating poorly. We blame them because they don't exercise. We blame them because they're not doing the things that we think are simple and preventable. And often there are some mental health challenges that are blocking people from accessing these things that we think are just easy to do. And so when Dr. Liebert spoke, he really spoke about that. You know, your doctor can do a surgery for you. Dr. Nata will speak about, you know, when people have mastectomies or whatever procedure they have, that magical thing that's going to get them well again. There's all that comes after that is needed to support people to get them to a place where they can make better decisions for themselves. So if people are not exercising, if we continue to drink alcohol the way we drink alcohol, if we continue to love the salty foods, the fried foods that are so easy and available to us, we need to realize that we as a society are playing into it. So the things that we are saying are preventable are actually, for many people, the easiest things to do. So I really want us to think about that when we talk about choice and what's available to people. But yes, Dr. Lescott, when you spoke about, we talk about caregiver fatigue.
So that's a thing,
Caregiver fatigue. That is a very real thing, and many of us who've sat at this table have probably experienced it in some measure or not. Maybe the person wasn't in our household. Maybe we were supporting a friend, a family member in another household. But I'll tell you, mental health is your emotional health, your physical health, your financial health, your spiritual health, and your social health. If you don't have a strong social network to get you through these things, it's going to be very difficult. When you are caring for someone who has a mobility issue, there is a financial piece to it that a lot of people don't quite speak about. Who's going to be there with them? Who might have to not work so that they can be at home with people? These are real things that put a strain on us. And so, you know, when you go to work and people say, oh, you should smile, she's always in a bad mood. You don't know what they are trying to cope with and balance so that they can get through that next day.
That's true.
So I really, caregiver fatigue, so real. Many of us feel it. And as maybe it's good, as you said, naming it helps people recognize this is what I'm actually going through. If you have someone who's been in the hospital for days or weeks on end, and you have to go to the hospital 3 times a day, what an impact that takes on your family life, your ability to recover for the next day. And people want us to be nice. It can be a challenge.
Gotcha.
Pick
Dr.
up in there, and that's what led me into this thing called community-based rehabilitation, because the community have a lot to do with recovery from illness or to managing illness in terms of the adjustment that is required. And in the disability world, speak about reasonable accommodation, you know, doing things that changing of policy perspective, etc., that you want to reduce the stigma and discrimination that goes along with a chronic illness or with a disability. Some disabilities are visible, some are invisible. You know, so I mean, if a person walking around with a psychosocial issue, they look outwardly normal, but they're carrying a great burden within, you know, and they have a chronic illness like diabetes. They don't know how to speak about it to their loved ones, and so they're carrying that burden alone, and they're not managing their situation well, and they get all the complications that can happen because of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding of the condition. So the community have to appreciate.
And sometimes, sorry, not to cross you, the morphology of some diseases change. Like you can be doing what you're supposed to do, but all of a sudden sometimes that dosing is not working anymore, that particular treatment. I've had diabetic patients express that to me, not to cut you off.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I'm just saying that, maybe we have to take a holistic approach to some of these chronic illness. All of them because of the interconnection with so many other things in life,
Gotcha.
So.
I would like to hear from Mr. Natter, Dr. Natter.
Well, from our standpoint at Essence of Hope, we've seen since COVID, and I'm not sure why, since COVID, a doubling also of the requests we've gotten. And coincidentally, in speaking to some of the resident oncologists, it's also a doubling of the diagnoses that they're seeing in terms of breast cancer. So I'm not sure exactly where that is coming from and what's the correlation there. I mean, for us at Essence of Hope, we're looking at two major things that we really would like to see happen. I think a lot of stuff in St. Kitts and Nevis in general, not just HealthWise, is not very data-driven, right? One of the other hats I wear is that I'm cabinet secretary, and a lot of decisions we are trying to make now, we're trying to make it not from an emotional standpoint, not from we feel like,
So you're one of our very able policymakers.
We want data, right, to drive what we're doing. And so at Essence of Hope, we try as much as we can to figure out what is really happening. And so what we want to do is two things. We want, one, we would love to see a hospice. We need hospice care for persons who are terminally ill. And, we want them to have palliative care at the end of their life. And two, we really want to see a population-based cancer registry done. And so I'm calling on some of our good young minds out there, especially the medical schools that we have, to maybe assist Essence of Hope in gathering that data. And that's something we feel we can give to other groups and to the government to help to drive exactly how do we deal with this. We have chemotherapy now. Do we need to go to radiation therapy? Is that something we need to do? And one of the other things we really are pushing, and this is maybe from a government standpoint and regionally, is, as Dr. Pierre said, we are all small in the grand scheme of things. If we put all the islands together, we're still small in the Eastern Caribbean. We need to develop centers of excellence. And I think Prime Minister Drew has already said he would love to have the New Genève Hospital be one that has the ability to do renal transplants, for example, or kidney, right? And so on. And so we need centers of excellence. We can have Antigua be one for oncology. We can have St. Vincent and the Grenadines to be one that deals with cardiac issues or something like that. So, we can't all just have everything because we are so small. But if we can have centers of excellence and we move to our islands nicely and hopefully we improve the air transport, that would be a really good thing. So those are the things we want to see from Essence of Hope, for sure.
To elaborate on what you were saying, from some persons you call some big words. Can you explain what does palliative care mean? Because that's a bit of a medical jargon.
Sure. Well, you see, I started off, I said I'm not a medical doctor. You want me to define medical care. But essentially, we want people to have in their latter years, when they're terminally ill, to be pain-free, to be as happy as possible, to die with dignity and so on.
And not suffering.
And not suffering.
Because then that brought me to a suggestion. Maybe we might need a pain clinic. Pain management clinic can be a step in the right direction, even if it's a small step for now.
Right.
I think we have a few persons that we have a pain clinic, but it's not as holistic as it can possibly be, right? It's not necessarily something as mainstream. There are lots of patients that might not even know who are the pain anesthesiology specialists and persons who manage those things. So yeah, I'm happy. Can we take a short break? We'll be back shortly.
Non-communicable diseases like cancer, diabetes, hypertension, and depression kill 41 million people every year across the world, according to the World Health Organization. And right here in St. Kitts and Nevis, over 80% of illnesses and deaths are due to these conditions.
Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle Lawrence of the Nevis Renal Society. Our aim is to reduce the incidence of chronic kidney diseases among our people through health promotion, educational outreach, and our health screenings. The statistics make it clear that we are losing too many people to cancer, depression, diabetes, stroke, renal diseases. Too many, too much. We simply can't lose any more people to diseases that can be remedied by lifestyle changes, a healthy environment, and evidence-based NCD policies. That's why we must take collective action.
We are taking action against non-communicable diseases, particularly lupus, through our community work and awareness activities. Lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease that affects various parts of the body as the person's immune system attacks its normal cells. Among the many challenges lupus presents is the fact that it is difficult to diagnose, as it often presents as other diseases, thereby giving it the name the Great Mimic. The effects of lupus are many, but collectively it lowers the quality of life of those living with it as they suffer chronic symptoms such as joint pain and fatigue. It's a long road ahead, but together we can conquer NCDs. We cannot lose any more persons to lupus.
Together as NGOs, we are taking action. Cancer is one of the leading causes of NCD deaths in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Each one of us know of someone who has been affected by this dreaded disease. It is a non-communicable disease that is burdening our healthcare system and destroying our family and loved ones. We at Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Foundation are committed in the fight against breast cancer. We are dedicated to giving free mammograms to women over the age of 40. We know that early detection does save lives.
We are on a mission to improve the quality of lives of people living with mental health disorders, to make workplaces more sensitive, schools more sensitive, even our families more sensitive. We hope you join us in this effort and this fight against non-communicable diseases.
I am the chair of Nevis CBR Advocates. CBR stands for Community-Based Rehabilitation. Many of our members suffer from non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and stroke.
I'm suffering with a neurological condition which affects my balance and my mobility.
According to an article from the National Library of Medicine, 80% of a person's life with disabilities is caused by NCDs. Most disabilities caused by NCDs are preventable. If we reduce the number of NCDs, we will also reduce the number of disabilities.
No one should be left behind.
No matter the type, chronic non-communicable diseases are a threat to our health systems, to our communities, to the lives of our friends and families, and to our future. To address these diseases requires collective effort. We must all take action. We must take action through policy change by our government. We must take action throughout our healthcare systems as leaders and professionals. We must take action through the advocacy work of our non-governmental organizations. We must take action through our personal commitment to leading healthier lifestyles, moving our bodies, eating healthier, and getting our regular screens with our doctors. And together, as NGOs,
we are taking action.
Thank you and welcome back. So we're going to continue our very interesting discussion. So we're going to continue where we left off. I'm going to continue with Dr. Nato. Sorry to catch you off guard again. Or are we going to shift it to Miss Baker?
Miss Baker.
Miss Baker. Okay. So we're going to continue about our discussion. Can you tell me in your own words, like, what do you think can be implemented to, how should I say, implement better lifestyle choices? We were talking about choices. It's really, you were explaining to me, some persons might not realize how sugary some beverages really are. And especially in this current climate, with all of this hot weather, we're losing our hydration through our sweat. You know, it's really extremely hot. So it's really counterproductive to be drinking and consuming sugary beverages. So explain to us how much sugar are in some of these sodas and what you found in observation.
Right, thank you. So I am very passionate about this topic from being the advocacy officer of the You're Sweet Enough campaign. Sugar-sweetened beverages are so common. Sometimes we only think soda, but it's also that orange juice you have in the morning. It's also that fruit punch that you have. Many of us are having a sugar-sweetened beverage with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was talking earlier about how I gave a health education session to a group of young girls, I believe age 8 to 16. And they all stated that they have juice with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Additionally, according to a survey done by the Healthy Caribbean Coalition, 62% of St. Kitts and Nevis, or Kittitian and Division children, consume at least one soda per day. Now, according to the research, just drinking one soda per day or one fruit punch per day can lead to a 5-pound weight gain in a year. Now, imagine our Kittitian and Division children drinking, or even and the adults as well, drinking a beverage with every breakfast, lunch, dinner in between every time they're thirsty. That can turn into, if it's 3 beverages, 15, 20 pounds additional per year. And that has led us, I believe, that has been one of the factors that has led St. Kitts and Nevis to having the 3rd highest rate of obesity and overweight in the Caribbean. When I think, as a panel, we can agree, we would love to be in the top 3 for how we address this obesity epidemic in the Caribbean, not being 3rd highest. And so, as an advocacy officer with Lake Health and Wellbeing, we advocate for policies, health policies such as a tax on sugar-sweetened beverages. This has been done in several countries, such as Barbados, the UK, Mexico, and all of these different countries have seen a decrease in the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages and an increase in water sales, actually, as well. So we are advocating for what the World Health Organization has said is cost-effective and evidence-based, which is a sugar-sweetened tax. Sugar-sweetened beverage tax of at least 20%. Secondly, we are also advocating for a school nutrition policy, which other countries have done in the Caribbean as well, which would ban the sale of sugar-sweetened beverages in schools. Additionally, fast foods as well, and around schools and at school events such as sports days. Thirdly, in addition to the sugar-sweetened beverage tax and a school nutrition policy, we also advocate for front-of-package warning labels. So again, these are evidence-based recommendations by the World Health Organization that have been deemed evidence-based and cost-effective. And so front-of-package warning labels would include a label that says, well, an octagonal label that would say high in sugar or high in fat or etc. on your foods, and this has been shown to be effective, specifically the octagonal warning. There's a study based in Jamaica that has shown it to be, and Chile and other countries that has shown it to be effective. So we are advocating for these policies that would aim to prevent our children and our population from further developing NCDs.
Wow, I think I like that idea. I'm not sure how our Kittitian public will feel about getting a 20% tax on chocolate.
But it's the beverages. It's the beverages.
Oh, just the beverages? So it's not just sugar across the board? Because I was just thinking, man, my life, you know, whoa.
I'd like to add one thing. Many countries that have this sugar-sweetened beverage tax what they've done is taken that money and earmarked it so that it goes back into health. And that is what we would like to see as well, so that this could be earmarked and also go back into health initiatives, health promotion.
So they're recycling our money.
Well, some countries have put it into universal health coverage, which I know is a goal of our government currently, to eventually have universal health care. And so the Philippines have done that. They've taken all the revenue from their sugar sweetened beverage tax and funneled that to fund the universal health care and other public health initiatives. So I think definitely that is something that I would like our government and policymakers to take seriously, consider, as it is evidence-based, cost-effective, and we've seen it work in other countries.
Wow, I think I really like that, especially now that I know that you're just not going to just take away my chocolate forever. So what I really would like to, I have a curious question to ask Dr. Nato, like what challenges do our breast cancer patients face in terms of the nutrition? Because I know cancer on a whole, researchers have shown from what I was reading that sugar and sugary diets actually feed some types of tumors and some cancers. And we have a very sugar-based society. I mean, we're called Sugar City, for crying out loud. So, I mean, even with diabetic patients, we have trouble with them following particular diets. What challenges are you seeing with the breast cancer patients, and how do you guys tackle that? Like, how do you advocate for better nutrition or more healthy choices for what you're treating?
Well, short answer is price. So that's the short answer. I don't know what Essence of Hope can necessarily do about that particular thing, but I think all of us recognize on this panel that healthier foods cost more than the not so healthy ones. I can tell you during the pandemic, what we did with Essence of Hope, we had to get a lot of food vouchers for persons, because anyone who has been diagnosed with breast cancer, or even after their fight and they won that fight, so to speak, they have to change their diet, and it's often to a much, much healthier diet. And so we really had to go out there and support persons financially in terms of giving them food vouchers so that they can afford to get the food that they need to keep themselves healthy. So a lot of the work that we do outside of just supporting persons to get therapy, etc., is again advocating to live a healthy lifestyle and eat healthy food. We often work with nutritionists who go in and speak to these cancer survivors and persons who have been diagnosed with cancer. So I mean, it's a constant fight for us, because food seems to be going up a lot more, and the foods that we need to keep ourselves healthy, those are increasing in cost. Hopefully, by 2025, I hear my good colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, say we reduce our food imports and start to enhance our local production of foods. And so I hope that means the price will go down and the quality will go up and so on, and persons will be able to get those healthy foods that they need, the grown provisions and the vegetables and fruits at a lower cost.
I really like that idea. I would like to take it to Dr. Liebert. What challenges with the renal patients? Because I know in terms of nutrition, kidney failure and end-stage renal disease, that also you will have to have a specific diet. What are the challenges are you facing in your clinic and in the community as it pertains to nutrition and persons having access to adequate foods? Dr. Nato outlined how he assists, or how they assist their patients. You spoke about community activism. Are there food drives? Are there like counseling sessions where people are taught nutrition? Do you go that route?
Well, we have not gone to that level of involvement as yet. I mean, we are still trying to mobilize, getting family members to appreciate, and yes, we advocate for food change in terms of healthy fruits and vegetables, but with kidney patient, because of the metabolism being so tightly regulated, yes, we want them to eat plenty of healthy fruit, but fruits can be high in potassium, so they need to watch the potassium level very closely, and so they need to be accurately measuring what they consume to avoid overloading the system. And yes, so if the healthy food is important, they still have to be aware that, they could go to the other extreme. And so, but in terms of prevention, yes, we want to catch those who have not yet gone into end-stage renal failure, to start eating healthy to prevent going down that road, right? And so that's the catch with renal patients. They are already past the recovery stage, but we want to prevent
further damage
from the cohort of diabetic hypertension patients who are heading in that direction. And so it calls for sit down with nutritionists, to understand that you have to manage your water intake, your fluid intake, your potassium intake, no resources of potassium in what fruit, like bananas, especially we love coconut water, but that is also high in potassium. And so we got to have a good knowledge of different foods and their micronutrient content. In other words, especially for renal, end-stage renal failure patients. But those who are not that yet, yes, we encourage healthy food, cut out all the refined products, the high salt, high sugar content, highly processed food which have little fiber in them, so that they get a more healthy balance in their diet. And so it's not as easy as some people will think it is, as just, don't do this, don't do that. We have to get to know food, how food is composed, and the healthy choices, and how to balance out the diet overall. And that's the work of a nutritionist, really. Even though I have the knowledge, you need someone who is specializing in that area to sit down with people and to work out the detail that this is what is for you. You just can't go by a cut and paste recipe, a formula from a textbook,
That's true. So
and of course, frequent testing to know where they are on the curve of in health. And
Dr. Lescott, just in terms of eating, I know it's not as clinical, but a lot of people also have habits of emotional eating.
Yes, I was actually going to toss the mic to you when it comes to the mental health aspect of nutrition.
Yes.
So
there are many of us, when we are stressed, we reach for something sweet, we reach for something salty, and because things have gotten more things are available in St. Kitts. I won't say things have gotten better, but more things are available in St. Kitts. So before, maybe there were 3 chocolate bars that you could choose from. Now you could choose from 20 chocolate bars.
And they deliver to your door.
Yes, people will deliver unhealthy things to your door. And sometimes people turn to food. And a chocolate now and then is okay, but sometimes people are drinking, they might not realize how sweet, how much sugar they're consuming. But what happens is it's an emotional response. You are stressed about what you're dealing with. Your doctor keeps telling you shouldn't eat this. I don't know how many of us have had a family member who has diabetes and we tell them they should only have 2 mangoes and they're on mango 7 by 10 o'clock. What is it we're feeding? And so, you could work with it with a nutritionist, but mindful eating is something that I really want to encourage people to do. So often we're eating and we're on our phones. So before we've even felt satiated, realized what we're eating, realized how we're feeling, we're already shoveling something else down. You're on your phone and you have the fork in your hand, you're looking at television, you're not actually even taking time to see how these things feel in our bodies. And that's just a distraction that we do. Some people eat to the point of, we go to a buffet and, some people's plates are mounds high. They're there to damage the institution. Get your money's worth. And what we want to really do is we want to make sure, are we eating to be nutritionally filled, or are we eating to deal with some pain that we're dealing with? And if we're willing to listen to our bodies and perhaps speak to someone, we can reach to a place where we can manage that a lot better.
You guys have life coaches?
There are a few life coaches in St. Kitts. Life coaches are very popular and they do help people with very actionable things. But sometimes there might be a deeper thing that you might need some professional help with. But As Dr. Liebert says, nutritionists are wonderful and helpful in terms of that coaching. But if you think your eating might be a little out of control, or a friend's eating or a family member's, maybe something else is going on there and it might be worth digging a bit deeper.
I agree. Anyone has anything else to add to the burden of nutrition and the cost of it? Because it's very noticeable that the cost of not just living, but the cost of food is getting high all the time. So how do we mitigate these sort of things with persons who are chronically ill, but they also need to eat a healthy and balanced diet? Dr. Pierre, in your clinical experience here in the island.
I mean, I don't think it's lost on any of us. 2 plastic bags at any of the supermarkets, I won't call any names because I think they're all the same, would set you back some $300 or so. I mean, and that's only because you have some green things in there. The challenge with it is really, and I know why it's a challenge. I understand the cost of eating healthy, because we are, I used to say to people that what we eat is killing us, but I say what we cannot afford to eat is what is killing us. That's a better one, yeah. Because it's become outrageous, the cost of food. In fact, I really think, and as much as we talk about organic, and I have my own philosophy about that, I think we can even begin to think about it. I think we start taking baby steps. Let's just start eating things that look healthier first and are healthier. And there are lots of reasons why. I mean, we can speak about having a diversity of our gut microbiome, right, and all these different foods and what that does for staving off diseases like cancer. What I think is interesting here is that nutrition seems to be one of the common threads that sort of weaves all of this together outside of Lake Health and Wellness. So I must commend, first of all, for bringing this NCD, because I don't think that this has happened before, where you've had an NCD alliance, as you're seeing, that everyone is dealing with something unique in terms of renal and mental health and the likes. But there's that common thread now of nutrition, and we ask ourselves, how do we as an island nation, and I drive around St. Kitts, and I see land that looks very arable to me. I mean, I'm not an agriculturist, but certainly I see that land and I say, why isn't that being put? Why isn't there kale growing there, right? Why isn't there something? And I go to the churches and I speak, and I commend the government and Sanal for if there's an ambition to 2025 to become sustainable in that regard. But we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait. And I go to the church sometimes and I say, part of the work is also community, right? And I know we have a monkey problem, but there are ways to do some type of indoor farming. I remember a friend of mine who used to be from a colleague here. During COVID, what he did was took PVC pipes and he found the DIY project, and he created a nice little indoor farm for him and his wife. And he started growing a few vegetables in there. So we can begin to do some of those things to offset some of the bills. The challenge we have, and let me just say, I sound very preachy. I would like to, and that's not a word, by the way, that's my word, I can do that. I understand the challenge, and that's why and Zara, thanks for keeping us honest in the sense that we sometimes, make patients feel like they're responsible, and we all are struggling with our nutrition. Who doesn't pick up a tub of ice cream and have the entire Bridget Jones meltdown in front of on a given day and just bought it because he just Bridget Johnson at this, right? Yeah. We've all been through there, and sugar is very addictive. Yeah. In fact, a lot more addictive than cocaine, as per certain studies. So it's not people aren't eating this. And there's a whole thing. I mean, many people don't know what my PhD was thrown out because of my stance on the transatlantic slavery and how the transatlantic slave diet has actually led to what we have right now. So I can go well into the weeds on this. The challenge that we have right now, I think, really is that we have this nutritional problem. We have the highest rate of obesity and diabetes in the Caribbean. We have, in terms of premature deaths of others at 40%, it's the highest in the Americas, right? So the highest rate of diabetes, the highest alcoholism, and that's why I think for me, when I look at these alliances, I say we have to move towards a culture of wellness. When we say health, what happens with the word health is that we start saying that it's their responsibility. It becomes too doctor for me. I think wellness in terms of how are we moving our bodies, because sedentarism is a big problem. How much are we moving? How can we get together as communities, as churches, as any sort of community-based organization? How can we begin to work together? Because if we get a culture of wellness, If we start, and we have someone from the government here, and something I always tell Social Security, because they talk about the amount of sick leave that doctors are giving. And I push back sometimes and say, yeah, there are doctors who are abusing the sick leave, but we have people in chronic pain in this country because of the weight that is being carried on the lumbar spine of individuals. The human body was never designed for that amount of weight. I see kids who actually need to have the hip repaired to actually support the weight of the upper body because of the obesity crisis, right? And that's right here in the curriculum. So when you look at those things, you tell yourself that there must be an all of society approach. We have to start building roads that has pedestrian sidewalks. I used to be a runner. I used to run a lot. Until I came here, trying to dodge cars and so on, especially when you get to a certain gas station along the bypass. It becomes a nightmare, and it's just not. So I'm trying to solve the weight problem, but I'm getting a chronic knee pain and so on, that sort of thing. So if we start working together, we start using and having policies around mental health, for example. Zara spoke to some of those things, but a lot of our mental health for us in St. Kitts, mental health represents why they goes crazy and walking around naked. But there's a lot of subtle mental health. People who are not productive as they could be because of depression and anxiety, ADHD, whatever it is that those most subtle kinds of mental health. But we need to work together to actually ensure we prevent those things. Because ultimately, if we're talking about the cost of food, it's that expensive, then let's start planting stuff. If we're talking about that, we can't afford to treat certain diseases, let's prevent them, or let's prevent the complications. And I think those are the things that we can begin to do even tonight, like right now. Get up tomorrow morning, go take a walk.
Wise advice. I probably should take that advice and go for a walk tomorrow morning. Ms. Baker had something to add to what Dr. Pierre was saying.
Yes, I just want to add something to what Dr. Pierre was saying and also Ms. Jacobs. I think you bring up a great point about how much more accessible unhealthy foods have become. There is some research saying that sodas used to be about 6 ounces. Now the average bottle is about 20 ounces. In addition to that, Dr. Pierre brought up a good point about how it needs to be an all-of-society approach. It's not just, as Zara said, it's not as simple as just saying, well, it's on you to make these choices. When certain foods are so accessible, when they're so much cheaper, when you can now have these things delivered, as we said, we have to have an environment for health. We have to have a society that is built for health. So as Dr. Pierce said, having walkable neighborhoods. But in addition to that, I would just like to bring up macro environmental factors and micro environmental factors. Research says that we cannot just rely on just putting all the responsibility on an individual for their health. We as a nation have to have an environment that makes the healthy choice the easier choice. We're all going to choose what's convenient for us at the end of the day. You come home and you had a long, hard day, and we're all going to choose the easiest, quickest, most convenient thing. And when the quickest, most convenient thing is fast food or soda, that's normally what the average person is going to choose. So I personally believe, just to, again, talk about the need for policy, I personally believe, again, that policy would help to encourage healthier choices. When you make, because in some cases, again, with policies, health policies, the revenue has also been used to subsidize healthy foods. And so when you start to put policies in place that can make that healthier choice the default choice, we can get ourselves on the track to a healthier nation.
But I may want to interject there that sometimes we have to railroad person into certain behavioral pattern, because human being does not normally do what is good for them easily. And so we have to put things in place that you are forced to walk at least half an hour every day, or you're forced to, you have limited access to the sugary stuff or the salty stuff. And so controlling access to these things, maybe a strategy that we need to consider. And so, I mean, human behavior, people don't save willingly. And so Social Security came in as a good, public good, as a good example of how people have been forced to save. And now in their old age, or when they get an illness, they're glad that the fund is there, to give them some relief, replacing income from, whatever the case might be. But when it first came in, I remember that people were barking at, oh, I want all my money because they want to spend it off and enjoy it. But no, they're glad that something is there when they get the illness or the old age, have a pension from Social Security. So forcing them to save in that scheme was a good thing. And so the social engineers need to
So we're gonna have like
put certain things in
a
place.
social, what do you call that, like China? What do you call
I don't know.
the social, that
Engineering.
social the point system, so we can have a similar thing
my
for
gosh.
health, like a social
Black
health
Mirror.
point system. I have one
Yeah,
question.
just last week I was talking to one of my colleagues about diabetics who are non-compliant. That there should be some kind of sanction system. You know, athletes have to do mandatory testing because if they want to perform, they have
families are
to
gonna get
they have
us.
to be clean, right? And so you fail a drug test, you're out of the game, right? And so maybe something like that needs to be introduced in terms of chronic health conditions where you have to show your A1Cs being maintained.
From one doctor to another, let me just say, I understand why, and believe me, I will tell you, sometimes, that revolving door, you see the same patient all the time, you call them frequent flyers. I used to think that we should tax them or something, I have to tell you. But here's what, I certainly think that we need to begin to promote self-care interventions, and that's not by making it difficult, imposing a martial law on individuals. I certainly think what we have to do, and I say that as medical doctors, we have to open up eyes. I think we can no longer become the custodian, this MD and whatever sort of prestige we've attached it to the extent that we feel that we become lord over health. I still think that we have to, because we cannot do it. The global healthcare workforce deficit is 43 million doctors and nurses. 43 million. To catch up, you have to recruit at least 30% per year to get that filled. That's not going to happen, right? So we have to get all the individuals, every aspect, everywhere wellness is being delivered. I don't care whether you're a massage therapist or whatever you do, everybody has to get involved. And I think those individuals, if we have consistency in the messaging, if we have a way to make this process more seamless, less fragmented, in the sense that somebody can come into a system, but diabetes doesn't have to come in and you get diagnosed with diabetes, but you have to go look for nutrition. The step between the doctor and the nutrition, that step, believe me, there are several chocolate bars, several sugar beverages, several reasons not to exercise. So if you make those things available, and I think there's a way to do those things holistically. We are in one of the most remarkable ages, which is technology. It's helping us solve a lot of things. And we have to actually put healthcare in front of individuals. If you look at what artificial intelligence is doing right now for the healthcare sector, completely revolutionized. So I think as governments, as societies, we have to start looking at ways in which we can fill some of the resource gaps. Because some of those, we need more nutritionists that we perhaps can afford and attract to this country. We're a small society. We perhaps can't pay you what you'll get if you're in the United States. But how can we make those things available to our people? Because until we have that approach, until we come together and make people get interested in their health and participate in their health, those self-care interventions, that I want to do this because it's good, and people actually actively do this to begin to change those things. In 2040, 1/3 of this country will be over the age of 65. 1/3. It means that people are making, the population growth rate is very, very small, and people are aging, people are staying around longer, disabled. So when you speak about Social Security, I panic because I don't know how much of it will be left, right? Because, it was a pension fund, which has now become sick leave, and so I worry that this will drive, and I think every nation is struggling with this today because people are dipping into this so much earlier than before. So we have big problems, and those are the things I look at and I say, I don't want to be despondent and say the next 20 years looks really grim, and where do I go? I think this is a problem that, if there's anything that you're taking away from this tonight is, how can we get on board? How can you get on board? How can we begin to actually tackle this together? And that, for me, is my pet peeve. All my life, my 23-year career has been around NCDs. And this is a big, big thing for me because I recognize that one of us, that's what's going to come. Hopefully for me, it's a silent MI, and then I accept it.
No, I have one question. Who was it? Did you mention that sugar is quite addictive? I wanted to know, does salt have the same effect?
No, not actually not. I don't like to do the salt, I can tell you, but give me, I can take something without. So actually had rice without salt.
Okay.
But sugar is highly addictive. Sugar is a lot more. In fact, actually, there's a study by one of the universities. I can't remember which one exactly. That I hate misquoting things, but certainly there was a study that was shown that with rats, and over time, very quickly, the rats transition from cocaine to sugar because sugar is so much more addictive than cocaine itself. So sugar is highly addictive. So what we see as people just going to sugary beverages and going gravitating towards sugary things, no, it's because there's also an addictive component. There's also a well-being. It makes you feel better. There are foods that actually
serotonin
increases the serotonin, the well-being thing, and so you eat and you feel this comfort food,
yeah,
right? And a lot of times, you know, we go towards that. Right? The more mental health, the more stress we have, the more comfort food we need. Sadly, comfort food in St. Kitts and the Caribbean is also alcohol.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we also have to tackle as well. I'm all for a sin tax. Like in Barbados, you cannot find alcohol in Barbados cheap. You have to really want alcohol to actually be able to buy it. So those are things that I think we can begin to look at. But I want to be sure that what we do is, I think we have to. This is a beautiful small country that I am so privileged to call my home, and I hate to think that we need to actually start enforcing laws for people to actually. I think we have to use our influence on individuals to actually encourage them to live healthier. That for me is what I think. I think we can achieve it.
Awesome. So, we are almost at the end of our show. I have one question for Miss Baker. Not that I'm going to exclude anybody else on the panel. I'll get to you shortly. So, do you have any alliances that you make with the NGO that you're working with? Are you attached to any other NGO to support your endeavors to try and get the community on board to comply and what's not? So you elaborate.
Yes, so we have a newly formed SKN NCD Alliance, Non-Communicable Disease Alliance, and many of the panelists here are part of that alliance. So we strive to connect. So Lake Health and Wellbeing, firstly, serves as the secretariat and convener of that alliance, but we strive to connect other NGOs or other non-governmental organizations and civil society organizations across St. Kitts and Nevis. We do a lot of work on our own, but that impact is much greater if we can have all of us work together to work towards a common goal. And as we can see from the conversation tonight, NCDs affects all of us. If not yourself, somebody you know. And it's not just the physical, as we spoke about tonight, it's also the mental. And so we need all of the organizations. There's some way in which all of us are affected. So we need all of the organizations that have similar goals, similar drives to work together. And so that's what we are doing with the NCD Alliance.
NCD Alliance. So anyone else wants to speak about how they plan to join this alliance? What would be your contribution, your organization? How would you contribute? Let me start from the farthest left first, Mr. Dr. Nato. I'm excited about this NCD Alliance. So how do you see the Breast Cancer Society contributing to this alliance?
Well, we really signed on from day one. Sense of Hope Breast Cancer Foundation was there from the inception. When the NCD Alliance concept came up, we jumped on board with that because that's the goal for Essence of Hope. We know we can't do it alone, and there's so much interconnectivity with other groups that you wouldn't even believe. You know, like we just showed connections between mental health and you know, breast cancer and other cancers. You know, the toll it takes on families, the toll it takes on the person themselves, and so on. So everything is really interwoven. There's no more silos and so in this world anymore. Nobody just does biology. You have to do biochemistry and biophysics and you know, these sort of things. Everything is interwoven, and so we were on board, and that's why, you know, we were happy to be here this evening as well, and look forward to other activities where we can help to bolster the alliance. And of course we invite other like-minded groups to come and join the alliance and even strengthen us more.
You could tell me like one or two of the challenges that you might be facing when you try to, I guess, incorporate the public. can you name any off the top of your head, sorry, any challenges from the public point of view in delivering your goal and your aim? Do you get pushback?
Sure.
Do you get support?
No, we get good support. However, it's always in October.
So after October, nobody.
Yeah, Essence operates. Breast cancer still, happens in February and March.
So October is like the carnival of breast cancer.
Everybody wears their pink and they're always, excited and they want to know what we're doing and they're ready for the walk and all of that. But I mean, in all seriousness, we do work all throughout the year. But I know there's a heightened sense of support in October, but the general public is very supportive of what we do. We do a lot of things behind the scenes, outside, behind, off the cameras and so on.
Do you guys have a Nevis branch? Is there?
No, it's just
Pink Lily.
although
Pink
we've
Lily
helped.
Foundation.
There's Pink Lily in Nevis, and there's also Reach for Recovery here on St. Kitts. But we've actually given support to persons on Nevis as well. But that's just one of the challenges, is to get people to have that same level of enthusiasm to support activities and fundraisers and so on outside of October. But in general, persons are very supportive. The other issue we have, and I can't live without saying this, or my president will be upset with me, is that we continue to try to demystify these myths about mammograms for women. And Essence of Hope offers free mammograms for women, and somehow, although men are the ones who don't like to go to the doctor, when it comes to mammograms, women go to the doctor for all kinds of stuff.
But not the mammogram.
When it comes to mammograms, we have this stigma that's still there that is very painful, or it can cause. Some people think it can cause cancer and so on. So I have to encourage women, over 40 or even younger ages, if you feel a lump or anything like that in your breast, when you're showering, you feel something different, please get a mammogram. If you feel you can't afford it, Essence of Hope offers free mammograms.
How much is a mammogram on average?
Right now it's about $300 EC, I believe, for a mammogram. But
again, you're offering it free?
We are here, we offer it free. And we want to encourage that, because we're seeing diagnoses of breast cancer in younger and younger women under 40 and so on. Although they say to do it from 40 years and up, we're seeing it under 40. So we just want to reach out to us, please. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook. Send us a message. We encourage you. Our president always says, for your birthday, if you're 40, and even if you're getting closer to 40, give yourself that gift for your birthday.
A mammogram?
A mammogram. Yeah. Okay. Trust me. Saves lives. Right.
So we're going to wrap up. It was quite an interesting show. We're going to quickly ask each person on the panel. Just tell the public quickly, how can we access your services, and how do we reach out to you if we need such services? Mr. Natter, Dr. Natter already gave us a good idea about the IG, Facebook, and what's not. So perhaps Ms. Jacobs and everyone else.
For the St. Kitts Mental Health Association, we have a Facebook page, so check us out. If you need a referral for a therapist or a specialist, we can definitely help you there as well. Generally, though, I want to encourage us to have compassion for each other. I know the feeling sometimes can be to go the draconian route with wellness. If people don't do this, we punish them in some way. Let's have some compassion for people, dig a little deeper, see what's going on, and hopefully help them restore a bit of balance, or at least a rhythm that makes sense for what's going on in their lives.
Awesome. I'm going to let Dr. Pierre go final. Can I have Ms. Baker?
Sure. So you can reach us you can check us out at youaresweetenough.com, and that's specifically for the You Are Sweet Enough or the You're Sweet Enough campaign. You can also check out our website, lakehealthandwellbeing.com, and you can also reach out to us at info.lakehealthandwellbeing.com.
Awesome. And Dr. Lyra, how can our members of the community find and reach out to you for further support in the kidney and renal care?
Okay, well, I've been the link between both groups and founding members. So they're coordinated through my office at Eureka Health Services, 662-5187 or 4690521. And so
you're in the Nevis Island Administration building?
No, in my medical office.
Okay.
At Eureka Health Services, which is my private medical practice. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And last but definitely not least at all, the very sincere Dr. Pierre.
For many things. The Medical and Dental Association that I represent, I think, it's well known that we represent the body of doctors both in St. Kitts and Nevis throughout the Federation. And instead of giving a contact for the Medical and Dental Association overall, what I would like to actually encourage in just 2 seconds is that I think there's a need to rebuild that doctor-patient relationship. I think we need to redefine what it looks like. I certainly think that there's been a lot of trust eroded in the system. I think that there are often individuals who have expressed their frustration. COVID did not help the medical community, but that relationship is such an important relationship. I think that the quality of doctor that I end up becoming will because I had patients who challenged me to grow, to know, to learn, to engage. And we have to do that. Go to your doctor prepared. Go to your doctor before you need. The doctor is not, many people say that the doctor is something that you have at your hope to never use. I think that is actually a misguided sort of approach. So I want to encourage you to rebuild that relationship. Find a medical practitioner that you can engage with. Find someone within the healthcare sphere, and I think that's what you need to do right now. Really rebuild that doctor-patient relationship, because I really think that a lot of the work that needs to be done is going to come from having that value exchange, which is trust. So that's pretty much what I want to encourage everyone in terms of how you actually reach out to the entire St. Kitts and Nevis Medical and Dental Association.
That's awesome. And that wraps up our episode tonight. It was really interesting, and I really enjoyed having the discussion with everyone here on the panel. But I'm sorry, but that is the end of our show. And as usual, I would really like to thank everyone for tuning in and spending your precious time with us every week as you usually do. Have a good night, and thanks again.